So before we even start with this episode, I just want to put in a little disclaimer to say that the drilling noise you can hear in the background is only in at the very start. I managed to figure out a way to remove it so that you guys didn't have to put up with it for the intros and outros, because man alive, it's annoying.
Honestly, of all the ridiculous things we've ever done, this takes the cake. But we've actually got a breather now. But like seconds ago, the entire house was shaking.
The poor cat's just standing there watching everything, being like, what the hell is going on? Why is the house shaking? Look at her little face. She's scared.
Oh, bless. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Bloody hell.
It's absolutely ridiculous. So we can only apologise, and we will try and be very, very brief.
This is so professional, isn't it? What's the most ADHD thing you've done this week? Try to record a podcast with this joke going on in the background. I feel like shouting out the window and be like, shut the fuck up! Thank goodness for software that can remove that noise. You don't have to put up with it for the rest of the episode. You're welcome.
Hello. And this is a very, 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 very funny episode and very insightful episode.
Yeah.
And Jacob is a ledge. We just want to say thank you so much to everybody for your support with the Anti-Ableist ADHD Media Coalition.
Did you say that the right way around?
Anti-Ableist ADHD Media. Yeah, I think so. Anti-Ableist ADHD. Yeah, I did. So especially thank you to Kat Owens, a disability campaigner.
Yeah, she's been brilliant at helping us put everything together and do it.
Yeah, just helping us get our ducks in a row and giving us such help. And the ADHD adults, of course, have given us so many amazing facts and their support, and just everyone who's getting on board with that. In fact, so many people are getting on board with it that it would be another website in itself to have all of the names listed at this point. So what we're going to do just for now is put all of our combined listeners and followers, and then we'll address it and do another list with names somewhere in a different form at some point. So thank you so much. We really appreciate the support, and we are reaching out to the press and all kinds of media with that.
Yes.
And we'll report back.
We will. And I think we should just get going because this noise is doing my head in.
Yes, let's have it.
ADHD as females, ADHD AF, ADHD as females, the podcast.
Hi, I'm Dawn.
Hi, I'm Laura, and we
are
ADHD AF.
AF.
Seriously. We are two neurodivergent neighbours who moved to the same street at the same time, at the same age, with the same undiagnosed disability. What are the chances?
Since discovering the enormous impact ADHD has had on our lives and the horrifying numbers of missing undiagnosed females, it has become our mission to make some serious noise.
We want to use our voices to raise awareness, break the stigma, and share our experiences in the hope that they help others.
So join us for a chat, or as it's called up here in Aberdeen, a blether.
Trigger warning, we will be covering some really sensitive topics, so please do have a read of the description of each episode before listening.
It's important to note that we are not medical professionals, we're not therapists or coaches, we're not qualified to offer advice or support. What we will do is share our experiences alongside resources and information from professionals. We will talk over each other and we will go off topic and forget the point mid-sentence.
We are both assigned female at birth, which means that we can only speak from the experience of life as AFAB people. However, ADHD AF is an inclusive space. Whatever your gender, you are very welcome here.
Yes, you are.
ADHD as females, ADHD AF.
We are joined by a very, very, very special guest who you will likely already have heard of. Why don't you introduce yourself, the wonderful Jacob?
Hi everyone, thanks so much for having me on your show. I'm absolutely buzzing tonight. I'm Jacob, aka ADHD Father UK.
Whose name was mentioned in Parliament recently.
Yes, you may know him from parliamentary debate fame.
And Jacob has a pink sequin wall behind him right now, which has been taken out especially for us.
I don't know if I believe it though. I like to believe that Jacob lives his life with pink sequin curtains up all over the house.
I wish. Boring old white behind this little one.
Love it. So tell us about yourself, Jacob. For anyone who doesn't follow you, what are you all about?
So yeah, I describe myself as sort of like the old hag of the ADHD online community. I was diagnosed when I was 14 and I'm 35 now, so a long time ago. And I've been on meds for about 20 years. I do a lot of stuff online around sort of trying to empower people around ADHD, talk about the good bits, the bad bits, also try and highlight positive representation. So, like, it could be sports stars, it could be musicians, it could be TV celebrities, and sort of maybe people that, like, when you Google ADHD celebrities, they're not the first people that come up. Not these sort of out there, you know, someone like Michael Jordan, maybe more closer to home, UK-based people. And also sort of just try and talk about ADHD and how it is as a parent with ADHD, but also what it's like for parents with young children with ADHD, and talking about what resources are available. And sometimes those secret little ways of finding secret resources, it's not who you know, or it's what you know, sort of thing. So try and highlight some of that and just talk about the realness that is ADHD, I suppose.
Yeah, fantastic. So Jacob reached out to us and asked us to do a live, well, a little while ago, a couple of months ago, wasn't it? So if anybody didn't catch that, you can see that on Jacob's page. So your handle is ADHD Father UK. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so your actual job.
It's a bit of a weird one. So I got a few little weird side hustles, but my main job is I work 4 days a week as an NHS mental health support worker. So I work in NHS community mental health team supporting people with first episode psychosis. So I've worked in NHS mental health services for about 15 years. Amazing. In all areas. I've worked in inpatient wards, I've worked in drug and alcohol detoxes, I've worked in the community. So I do that 4 days a week, and then one evening a week I work on a mother and baby unit. So it's like a mental health unit, but it's only for mums that have either just about to have their baby or had their baby when the baby's up to a year old. And most of the mums are struggling with sort of postnatal depression or postpartum psychosis. So I'll run a dad support group for half of my time there. For the partners or significant others, and then the other part I'll spend with the mums. So that's my side little bit I absolutely love.
Yeah,
amazing. So you sound like a very busy man.
Busy is like, you'll notice with ADHD, taking on way too much and going, yes to everything.
No,
I'm a little bit more stricter with my a little bit more stricter with my time now. And sometimes I've had to say no to things I've really wanted to do. So when I work on the mother and baby unit, I do that in the evening. So Monday is my day off with no kids, just me. So I'll do stuff like podcasts or some interviews or ADHD stuff, or sometimes I'll just chill and have me time, which is great for me.
Oh, good stuff.
As long as you're making room for the chill and me time, you know.
I definitely prioritize that stuff.
We're trying. Anyway, so back to the whole ADHD thing. How did you come to suspect you had ADHD, or was it picked up? Did someone else recognize it because you were diagnosed so much younger?
Yeah, so I was reading through some of the questions earlier. I was thinking, God, it's a great question, but it was so long ago. But actually, I think my story would have been a lot different if it wasn't for that representation. So my mum's best friend had an older son who had a diagnosis of ADHD. He was about 4 years older than me. And I don't think it would have been picked up as early if he hadn't had his experiences.
Yeah.
So I remember my mum had seen us together and thought, oh my gosh, I was that stereotypical boy, full of energy, very impulsive, would get in trouble, but it was like petty things, or like I was sticking up for people and then I'd say something to get myself in trouble. But then I remember probably about 14 summer holidays going away to France to spend some time with family, with my mum and her partner, and my best friend come with us. And she said, like, now, she was like, you were just so different. And he was quite quiet anyway, so it probably increased how I was. But she said the only time you were quiet was like you were able to concentrate. I was sort of hyper focused back then, not knowing, on like fishing. So she was like, you just like set the alarm for 5 o'clock in the morning. You would happily walk out like 2 miles and go fishing on your own. But so she noticed it then, and then obviously went to the GP, and the referral process was a lot quicker then. I can remember being asked questions, but not much, like really. I just remember a few bits of questions, but it was a bit of a blur. And then they went, you've got this thing called ADHD. And then I moved into a new school. So it was odd. But then it wasn't something I was shocked by. It was more like, oh, I've got this thing. I didn't know much about it. I wasn't told much what this thing was. I was told that obviously I was impulsive and a bit more full of energy, but that was about it. And I remember like the internet was sort of big-ish, but not as big as it is now. I remember Googling ADHD, and one of the first articles was like ADHD meds kills child or something like that. I remember speaking to my mum, I was like, oh my God, you want me on this? And she was a really good bit of advice. She was like, the thing with the internet, anyone can write something, it's seen as fact. And I remember being like, oh yeah, maybe. And that's sort of how I got my diagnosis.
Yeah. So you've been on medication for, I can't even do the maths, 21 years? Is that
20 years.
Just over 20 years.
I had 35, but that's APD for you. Not putting a year on you. So when you started meds, like you were a child and you've had them ever since. Have you had any breaks from them or not at all?
Not really. Someone asked me like before, they said, "Oh, how come you decided to stay on, like to go on them?" You know, my child refused, and I said, I probably was at an age where I still believed my mum told me what to do, I had to do it.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like I had a choice in this. So she said I had to stay with meds, and I did. And what was the end bit?
I don't even know.
So they used to recommend, like, if half terms, take little breaks and stuff like that, and I would do that for about a week or 2 weeks, and it wasn't too bad. There was a difference, but it wasn't like substantive where like I was making risky decisions. And then once the kids come, it just wasn't possible. Like I could, but I feel like I would be ruining their holiday. We went away with the kids and I come off the meds, and my wife's like, okay, I've got 3 kids now. I'm sure it wouldn't be that bad, but the idea of it's more my own sort of fear compared to like, and that's the bad side of meds. There was never any education or ADHD coaching or resources when I was growing up. So it was just medication and that was it.
Yeah.
And there was no videos or anything. So there are parts of me that I would definitely say I'm more in the fear of being off them compared to that sort of reliant on the medication. And I've talked about like coming off them for a while. Like the plan was to do it this year. But every time I've done like even 2 days by mistake, I just eat like so much.
Yeah.
And like, so it's like purge eating.
So it's BED that is helping you.
Yeah, it's just, and so it's more psychological. A lot of the stuff is my own psychological, like that fear of like, right, I've got family, I've got a job. I've done all this with meds. What would I be like off? I'm sure I would be fine with the right support, but I
totally feel that. Like I feel the same. Like obviously I've not been on meds that long, only like whatever it is, 13 months or something. And no, it was March, so I can't even remember. I don't even know what month it is. I don't know who I'm kidding. I don't even know what day it is. But
what's your name?
I don't know at this moment. But like I do feel like that. I feel like, God, if I come off them, then I'm just going to go back to that anxious craziness.
And it's the same sort of fear I imagine people have with antidepressants and stuff like that. I've been on antidepressants for about 2 years and looking to come off them. And I think because I've been on them not too long compared to other people, I'm like, right, I need to come off these. I've got enough things. And I think with the antidepressant, I can see I've put things in place, like educational stuff. I've got a really good routine. Where with the ADHD stuff, I'm still like, I haven't put so much in place. Like my mental health is great. My ADHD sort of health, I think, still needs a bit more work.
Yeah.
And so on the medication front, have you been on the same type of medication since you were young, or have you changed over?
Yeah, so it changed a little bit. I think at first I was just on like Ritalin, 10 milligrams 3 times a day, and then went on to a couple of other different ones. And then I increased them probably about 7 years ago because I was like, look, I don't feel like I'm seeing any difference here, because I've been on them ones for about 10 years. And then I'm currently on Concerta XL and increased that. My daughter must have been about 2, because I was like, well, I'm not seeing a difference. And luckily I've got a good relationship with the prescriber. And I said, look, I'll tell you. At the time, they were like, oh, you're not sleeping enough? I was like, I've got a newborn baby. Like, no one's sleeping enough. And actually, I upped them too much. And I was able to go, actually, I feel like I'm just a bit zombified. And I remember I had a job interview and I took the meds, and I'm glad now I didn't get the job, but I had on paper like everything, and the one thing I missed in the interview was my confidence, and I think that is something I sort of pride myself on, like being able to go out there and chat to everyone, and that was just completely gone in the interview process. I was like, yeah, I think I've gone up too much, so now I think I'm on a good level.
Yeah.
I think it's good to be able to recognize that as well, because I think that's part of the worry is like, oh, am I going to take too much? Is it going to be enough? It's like finding that level, but I guess you'll know.
There is that uncomfortableness as us as ADHDers to go, it's really shit with the ADHD. I just want to take all that away and be like normal, whatever normal is. Like there was times where I think I just want to be like numb to it and just be like no symptoms. Like now I've got that sort of lived experience to go, that's never going to happen. However much meds you're going to be on, you will still have ADHD traits. And that's something I've definitely seen, like with mine before kids, I would be less ADHD-ness at work. And then, but it would have to come out. So at home, I would be more impulsive. But then once the kids were here, I was like, right, I need to concentrate because I've got to look after children now. So then it comes out of work. So like when I'm with my clients, I'm really professional. But in the office, it has to come out somewhere. So I'm like, fuck oh. They're like, and I'll be like more banter, more. That's very just crossing sometimes that line of what is acceptable with that, like taking the piss and just being. Luckily, I've got a good boss, but it has to come out somewhere.
Yeah.
So I like some families like I just want it gone. I want the medication taken, and I was like, that's never going to happen. You know,
how did you feel? Like, I mean, obviously, I don't want to pry and tell me to shut up.
so,
But like, how did you feel like in going into parenthood? Did you feel worried or anxious because you know that you have ADHD? Were you worried about being a parent?
yeah, 100%. And that's why I started like my profile really. Diagnosis to sort of like 27. I'd never done any education stuff around ADHD. Never really openly met an ADHD person.
Wow.
So I just thought like, oh, this is me on my little island on my own. And then I remember like Googling being a parent with ADHD, and there was no one out there. And I spent days trying to find other parents. I was like, there must be a parent with ADHD, and there wasn't. I was like, it's really shit. But I don't want that shitness for other dads or mums. So if 6 months down the line, someone's looking, they find me, they can contact me. So that's where I started. But I remember at first thinking like, there is a part of ADHD, I think, that from the outside can appear that we are quite selfish and it's all about us. And realistically, it's not. It's more about our self-confidence. We're having issues with that and our love for ourselves. A thing that dads struggle with generically, if you're not ADHD or whatever, that sort of from going from, I'm number one in the relationship or like to now I'm the third choice or whatever. And my dad, I remember dad saying to me, he was like, she won't be your wife anymore. She'll be your baby's mum.
Yeah.
Which I remember at the time being like, I want her to be my wife, and being brutal, like brutally honest, but actually that's what I needed. And actually now things are good. Like there are good bits about it. Like I think my impulsivity as a parent can be used in amazing ways of just, right, let's go to a circus today. Let's go let's go to the beach. Sometimes it can be tricky, like actually, if my kids like a plan and I'm like, let's just do this. And I'm like, no, I thought we were doing that. I'm like, no, let's. So there are difficulties with it, but I think where I am now is just completely different to where I was sort of 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's why I'm the fun auntie, because I'm just wild and no one else does the daft things I do.
Yeah.
I get it. So some of these questions don't really kind of work with you because of where you are at your diagnosis. Because we ask like, what undiagnosed ADHD has cost you. But if we were to flip that question round, what do you think and where do you think you would be if you didn't have your diagnosis?
Growing up, if you said to me, young Jacob, you'd own a house, you'd have a mortgage, you'd have a full-time job and 2 kids, that just wasn't on my radar. My sort of outcomes of what my future held was lucky if I had a job. Like we were brought up single mum on benefits, who works like loads of hours of the day, did a nurse training, did night courses to do a law degree, like super mum. and worked everything so we could provide for us. So the idea of how I'd own a house is just not possible. I think without my diagnosis, it would have cost me jobs. Definitely would have cost me jobs. And more importantly, I think my mental health would have been massively impacted. I think you can juggle with that sort of like low self-esteem probably at times through your childhood and maybe into your teens. But I think at 35, there's no way my wife would have stayed with me, unmedicated, undiagnosed, just because those impulsive decisions, the negative sides of ADHD. And that's some of the stuff I talk about on my sort of platform is if you're coming new into this sort of journey of ADHD, you look and there's a lot of profiles that are on social media that are like, ADHD is a superpower, it's amazing and all this. And then you're like, well, I want to kill myself. Or like, I remember someone saying, if it's a superpower, how am I not using this? Am I using this wrongly? So I think it would have cost me a lot. There's no way I would have my beautiful kids and be as passionate about like being a father. There's no way.
I wonder, because obviously later and later diagnosis, you've got all of the baggage, all of the stuff that you're carrying of feeling unworthy, inept, isolated, having to hide who you are. You wouldn't necessarily have the confidence, or what's the word I'm looking for, like self-belief that you could be a good parent, that you have something to pass on to, be reliable or, And
I think that's one thing like with ADHD that people don't really talk about. Like medication is great for me, but it didn't teach me anything about like coping mechanisms. It didn't teach me anything about my self-love for my ADHD, of what is my ADHD and what is my personality traits. And that came from doing self-education, watching TED Talks, nothing like I didn't do anything academic. I watched peers talking about their experiences, real people that look like me, that have been through life like choices of me, working class, and hearing those stories and going, okay, I get it. And then going, that's me. And that's what I say to people new to a diagnosis. That education is sometimes, I would say, as important, if not more important than the medication side, because the medication is not going to help you with that self-love or that self-awareness, building that self-esteem. It will numb some of those bits, but it won't build that. Like most guys, I suppose, my age that were diagnosed, a lot of them just take the pill and get on with their life. But you won't thrive with that. Where I think what I definitely noticed in my ADHD journey, it started to go on up into positive stuff once I started doing that education and owning that, actually being proud of my ADHD, the good and the bad. And so like now, today, we were doing the ADHD research project, and I was chatting to one of the lecturers, and he said something about ADHD. Obviously, knowing I've got ADHD, my daughter just piped up, my dad's got ADHD, and my nanny's got ADHD. He's this. And I was like, so proud, because I was like, I'm proud that she sees it as a positive, or sees it as what it is. I talk about the good and the bad, but she's not. She's grown up knowing that ADHD is a thing that is part of our society, that we should.
It's just a normal thing that she's around.
And it's because there's representation that she can see, my nanny's got ADHD and she struggles with this, and this, because my nanny talks about things she struggles with. My daddy he doesn't just talk about the good bits. I mainly talk about the bad bits. I go, I used to be forgetful. I do this and this. So she sees that, and I think, and she reads children's books about ADHD, and I think that's what I want. That's what we'd want with anything. If it was a mental health difficulty or a physical difficulty, we would want it to be seen as, okay, this is part of like the tapestry that builds our amazing community.
And that's it. She sees it as a thing, but neither in a negative or a positive. It's just it just is
just a normal thing. Part of society.
The next thing I was going to say is, again, we speak about the late diagnosis roller coaster and being in the whole grief cycle thing. So you've not experienced the late diagnosis roller coaster, but you still have to go through a certain level of acceptance with what you have as you grow up. So when do you feel like you reached that? Have you reached it? Or
I would say I think I've reached it. I think it changed when I started more like Instagram stuff. So at first, the Instagram was very private. Like none of my friends knew about it. It was just anyone that found it was great, but it wasn't. I wasn't telling any of my friends or any of our circle of friends. And then I remember some of my wife's friends found me somehow, and then they started following me. And then I was like, oh, fuck it. Well, one's following me, I might as well tell the rest of them. And then like now it's like it's gone to a level like my wife's like, oh, I was in the supermarket and chatting to someone who said their daughter had ADHD, so I just gave them your profile. Da, 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 da. And like I'm like, oh, brilliant. And then like so like now I feel like I own my own shame and guilt, and I've experienced working on a mental health ward, and a nurse say to me, oh, not knowing I had ADHD, saying, oh, ADHD is poor parenting, it's bad parenting. I'm thinking, what? This is someone who's done her nurse training, da da da. How can she think that? And or being told by senior members of staff, like I think I was whistling in the corridor, and she knew I had ADHD. She was like, "Oh God, have you not taken your meds today?" And I remember that holding on to that sort of shame of like, "Oh my God, I'm different. Oh my God, like they're gonna think I because I've got ADHD, I'm a lesser of a person." Where now the Jacob of today would go, "Hang about what you said there. Do you understand what you said? How if I was maybe newer in my journey, that would be really hurtful." Or saying to the nurse, if a nurse had the guts to say that to me now, I think I would tear them to shreds with all the facts and figures I know. And I think for me, like now, it's that ownership of it. Like I like with the articles I was saying to my mum about, I was like, oh, a lot of people get upset about these articles where they say ADHD is fake. And I said, maybe it's because I've been around it a lot longer. But I said, I don't give a fucking shit what some white middle class old man says about ADHD. I said, because he hasn't been around my people. He hasn't been around the people that face this. And but then my mum was like, yeah, but for some people, like it's so fresh for them, and they've had to fight really hard to get this diagnosis. It is very personal. And I said, yeah, I get that. And for those people, I really feel for them. Like, but I think over time, that sort of stuff doesn't upset me. What upsets me more is the long-term stuff, the stuff how like the government don't fund ADHD services, or poor schooling system where I see every day young children struggling. Those are like the next level up is the stuff I think that early, like where people were just writing stuff for clickbait. I don't see it so much. I know it has a longer term negative.
Fall off a duck's back, like there's bigger problems.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing. I'd say like it. I think you guys will get as well. I think this we're trying to fight for a bigger thing. So it's more of an annoyance because I'm like, look, we're trying to change laws here. I haven't got time to fight over some old man who doesn't know what he's talking about. You're just slowing the system down. Like,
yeah, I feel like for us, like we've been on a real journey with it. Like we sort of hopped straight on that Guardian article ages ago, whenever that was. And we got quite a lot of people, getting on board with that. And then it kind of stopped for a little while. And then the next one that came out, we hopped on that. And then it's kind of dawned on us that actually we're probably helping feed the clickbait. Because and the truth of it as well is that, people that haven't read it, because when you're talking about vulnerable people who have just found out they've got it, somebody that is on a waiting list, somebody that is trying to tell their elderly Daily Mail reading mother, who is trying to tell their work that they need support, like that's the last bloody thing that they need. And so actually it's still really important, but we're going to change the way we do it and what we want to do. And it's so incredibly arrogant. Like, I understand how arrogant we sound, but it's just that we just feel we have to do something. Like, sometimes I can be incredibly articulate and I can, convey what I'm trying to say coherently sometimes. But unfortunately, I'm not of a certain class. I sound like a chipmunk and I'm a woman. And so, strike. There's no way that I'm going to convince the boys club of a certain class of anything. They wouldn't even when I open my mouth. Do you know what I mean? So we sort of feel like it's important to try and not just be like, that's wrong, that's wrong. It's like, this is wrong and why. So we've got a bit of going where we can try and educate and encourage people to use their voices if they've been hurt, as opposed to like, look over here, this guy's a prick. Well, we all know that. There's no point in it, is there?
Yeah. And I think those articles go back to exactly what I first got when I got my diagnosis, Googled it and found, oh God. And so that, like, for the people, 20 years on, when they Google ADHD, unfortunately, it could be that week that story's come out and go, oh shit, this guy, he writes for the Guardian. He must know what he's talking about. Maybe it is all made up. And so it is important. I think for me, I take it with a pinch of salt, but I do see how harmful it can be as well. Like for those newly diagnosed, I think it's a smack in the face to anyone.
Or those
with a
trying
late
to think about getting a diagnosis, and they're like, well, maybe it's all in my head. Maybe, I mean, that awful one today about an excuse for bad behaviour. I'm fucking strength. But it's like, oh, maybe I am just a piece of shit then. Maybe I am.
Yeah. So I've got a great one. Like, I've only had it a couple of times with trolls. That, like, I had it on, like, when we posted the stuff about the Parliament debate. Someone said, "Oh, ADHD wasn't around. It's only a new thing since the pandemic and COVID vaccines." And I thought, oh, fuck. And I just said, I said to him, well, actually, it was first mentioned in 1902. And he went, you Googled that? I was like, well, yeah, to be fair, I did Google that. But I just said to him, I was like, give me your phone number. I'll give you a call. We'll discuss it, which I know is a bold move. But I was like, I know he doesn't want to talk to me. I'm happy to talk to you. I'll talk to anyone. If I can talk with people who are struggling with psychosis, I can talk to you. And they never respond. Every time they just go, "Nah, I'm right." I think, well,
you're gone. Yeah. I think it's really, really tricky. And I think for us, I was going to say there's sort of two things that I wanted to say to you, and I'll try and remember both of them. The first one is, do you have the rage? Because like you said, that's water off a duck's back. But, when we are talking about the slow process, the lack of funding, all of the stuff that's going on, do you feel angry? Because I feel like for me, I've kind of just about got over the anger of it all. And now I'm just like, oh, Jesus Christ. Now I'm living in this constant state of rage because I'm trying to fight this and I'm trying to fight that. I'm trying to rally troops. It's like, I can't exist in this constantly angry place,
It's funny you say that because it's something that's come up recently. So obviously in my job, I have to be very calm, deal with at times, people that are very violent and aggressive, and you're in their house. So I'm always trying to be calm and relaxed. And being a parent, I'd never lose my temper. I try and be calm and relaxed. So I said this to my wife. I was like, it will come. It has to come out. That rage, especially with ADHD, it has to come out somewhere. And twice in the last month, I've lost it massively to, this is going to sound awful, members of the public. And so I think about with my NHS hat, I'm like, fucking hell, if this got into Daily Mail, NHS staff rages at. So one was a guy who I was just in my area, just sort of at the junction at night time. And someone was in front of me and they were on their phone. I thought it was a neighbour, so I just let him wait. And then a runner just ran in front of the car. I wasn't even moving. And the car scared him more. And then he was effing and blinding. And I just lost it. Just started shouting at him and all that. And then I said to my wife, the scary bit is I actually don't know where I went. I said, I was gone. I know, I'm never going to get physical, but I can definitely speak a good fight. I lost it big time and I think I just had some good news before that. It completely changed the evening. And then I with my NHS hat on, overthink the situation. I was like, that poor guy was a student. Maybe that he's struggling with his mental health. And that was the first time he'd gone out and done some exercise. And now I've shouted at him. He's never going to leave the house. And then that whole
you're never going to get physical. Just because you're never going to get physical doesn't mean to say they won't.
Yeah. So. And the other guy I lost my temper at was an absolute piece of shit. So I was like, so he was a friend of mine who reported someone had been abusive to her. And I seen him out and I just told him not to talk to her again. But I remember, typical ADHDness, that impulsive, in a normal situation, you go, oh, I'm with my work colleague. Why would I have a go at someone who is not a very nice person? I was like, no, fuck it. My sort of what is right and wrong of that, scale. No.
Sensitivity.
Yeah, I was like, no, I'm going to tell this piece of shit never to come anywhere near us again. My colleague was like, what happens if you know you get in trouble? And they ain't going to sack me. It's fine, and all this, and then like overthinking it. Oh God, what happens?
Yeah.
But it has to come out. Like,
Yeah.
so mine comes out in short bit, but it won't be to any like friends or family. And normally, I said to my wife next day with the student, I was like, I feel like I should go over to his house and speak to him and say sorry. She was like, no, it's probably like it's worse than it is. But like that ADHDness of a child, I used to be like that. I'd say something really terrible, like or mean to friends or family, and then I would regret it all week.
Act impulsively with disregard to the consequences, and then think of nothing else but the consequences.
Yeah, because you do feel that moral responsibility for others, and you don't actually want to hurt other people's feelings. So then you have to carry that around.
Yeah,
get around.
Yeah, I get that.
Let's see. Can I remember the second part of the question? What was the first part of the question? Right. Okay.
I can't remember.
I'm fire tonight. With being online and with so much going on, do you sometimes feel a bit overwhelmed? Because I think lately we've been a bit up against it. A lot of people want us to share things or get on board with things. And like, we want to. We see ourselves as part of a community. We're not separate. But there are only so many hours in a day. We only have 4 hands between us. And it gets a bit like, oh my God, you're just constantly batting away messages and constantly trying to appease people and then thinking, you know, oh my God, I missed that message. Oh my God, they're going to hate me now, and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So like more on Instagram, never get any of that on Twitter. On different platforms, different things. So Twitter is more like academic people or professionals asking sort of advice, and I don't learn it as often, so I don't really get that much. Instagram is normally parents, so it would be traditionally mums of young children. So we do a thing in our family like our love language. So you work out what your love language is. Mine is like gifts of service is mine. So I feel better about myself if I can do something for someone, as well as my ADHDness and I think I'm quite a caring person. Take away the ADHD stuff anyway. So I definitely overstretch myself, and it's all my own fault for saying yes. Or people will say, oh, I feel like I'm taking your time. I'm like, and I've said in the past, it's fine, I've got loads of time. So sometimes it gets too much, and I think that it's that thing of, oh my God, so-and-so who I've never met has sent me a message at 10 o'clock at night. I need to read it now and help them, because if I don't, what happens if they struggle?
Yes.
I've got better at going, it can wait. So like I've got things like my phone normally switches everything off, all the notifications at 9, and then I have that little bit of space. So I'm better at it now. I think from struggling with my mental health probably about 3 years ago, I've had to like look at how I look after my well-being, and that is one thing of like not like prioritizing me time, not overstretching myself, and being okay saying no to some things. That's the hardest one.
Yes, but we're getting there. We're in that place now of trying to prioritize our well-being, because we're pushing it a bit hard at the moment, but we'll get there, you know. Like,
and you get that with most, like when I talk to a lot of like people that have got social media accounts, that first couple of years, it's just that balancing out what is okay, and like I have to put like some boundaries in. I was responding to people at like 3 o'clock in the morning when I was doing like night feeds, like with and I was like, they don't want to get a message from me at 3 o'clock in the morning, but why am I happy to write this and all this? But in my head, I was like, if it doesn't happen, they're going to think I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And that fear, I'd say to my wife, like, when I'm hyper focused on something, and sometimes it's social media, it's like a drug. I would say like it's the nearest experience of like addiction, because I said when it was bad, there was a couple of things a couple of years ago I was very hyper focused on, and I'd say if I would 100% choose that over being a parent. Like my wife said, right, you got to feed the kids or do this, I would do this week. And that wasn't like to get out of doing the nappy. That was because I 100% believe or like felt inside that if this didn't get done now, something bad would happen to anyone else. They're like, well, that's just bad parenting. I'm like, no. It's a core feeling of like doom and something horrendous is going to happen. You're like, oh my God, I need to do it.
Exactly. It's like For me, it's like we've done unexpectedly well, and so there's just something in my head that thinks it's all going to go tits up tomorrow. So everything that happens has to happen, and it has to happen now because it's all going to implode. It's all going to go wrong, and it's that.
And
all
it's
the
funny
time.
because the other side of it is, and this is what we were speaking about today, is it's like prioritizing, figuring out which things are priority and which things aren't. And most of the time, you'll put yourself as not a priority when in actual fact, it should be priority, because if you're not prioritizing yourself,
then you're going to do
you
shit
can't
job.
do the other things because you're burning yourself out and making yourself ill.
Yeah.
So really, the thing you actually need to prioritize with is yourself, so that you're able to do everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would 100% agree with that. Like, and that's like, I would say a big part of me struggling with my mental health came from probably, like, I struggle with postnatal depression with my son, but I think there was other things in play that probably didn't help with, like, I was taking on way too much work with the ADHD stuff and not prioritizing my own stuff. And like, so now, like, I have things I need to do. So every week I need to do one form of exercise. Normally it's playing football with my friends. I need to eat wellish, not great, but wellish. But sleep is a big one, making sure I'm prioritizing sleep. So making sure most of the time I'm in bed by 10, or like if I've done something like tonight, the rest of the week I've got things in place. And then the last one is me time, away from my role as a dad or a husband. So it could be as simple as just like going downstairs and watching a film, or half a film, or going for a walk, or having a bath, something like that. Need to do that. And since I've started doing something like that, it's been a game changer. Now, I remember once I said to my wife, right, I'm going to go see Joseph in his Technicolour Dreamcoat musical. No one else wants to go with me. I'm happily going to go on my own. I remember just sitting there, just so happy. I was like, I can go to things on my own and not feel shit about myself for it.
I love it.
I love my own company.
My coat of many colours.
And I remember watching it going, I can't remember it being this camp. And then, like, at the end, I was there just like dancing. Like, come on, Joseph.
Love it.
Right, me time. As a bloke, I'm going to go out. What are you going to do? Go and see Joseph.
Oh my God. Like, there's bits of my me time, like, my wife hates it. So one of my things, and I very rarely disclose it, so a big thing of like keeping my mental well-being good is a big long bath. But it's not just the bath that makes the experience. It's like all the bath bombs and all that shit. But then the crowning thing of it is,
you realise this is a podcast, and it's
I'm happy to say there's a couple. Yeah, there's a couple of albums I listen to. So Fleetwood Mac, Rumours, that's my cool choice. I'm like, I'll listen to it. My not so cool choice is Adele, 21. And literally, my neighbours have texted my wife a couple of times and gone, oh my God, Sarah, your singing is amazing. And she was like, yeah, that's my husband. And I'll be there like in the bath, like, I'm not even going to sing it now, but sing it to it. And she's like, fucking Adele, 21. Not again. God.
You know you're coming to one of our shows, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You're getting karaoke and Bell on for you.
I was seeing this the other day. I was like, how well could I actually do on Adele? And I was like, it's that typical in your head that, like, she's not that good. I probably could smash it. And then the other side goes,
no, she's all right.
Well, you don't have to think about it for much longer, because at our show, we're blasting out some Adele. And
right.
I was about to say Joseph is coming to our Bristol show, but Jacob, hopefully in a Technicolour Dreamcoat, is going to be joining us in Bristol and singing Adele. So if you don't have your tickets already, you need to get involved.
Yeah, definitely get your tickets.
If you are finding this podcast helpful and you're in a position to do so, we are asking that you help us by signing up to our Patreon. In pledges starting at just £4 a month, it will give you access to our We Are ADHD AF community forum, in which we are both active members and we all support and learn from each other. You will also get access to behind-the-scenes content, exclusives, offers, blogs, vlogs, the works, everything in the kitchen sink. Your pledge will also mean that we will be able to continue to put out weekly episodes of ADHD as Females, the podcast.
Alternatively, if you would prefer just to make a donation, you can do so by visiting buymeacoffee.com/ADHD as Females. We know that our words are helping people in 164 countries and counting.
We really appreciate your support in supporting us to continue supporting the ADHD community.
If you are ADHD AF and you want more ADHD AF, Join the We Are ADHDAF community. www.patreon.com/ADHD as females.
Obviously, you were diagnosed young, so the process was a lot different for you. But you speak to other people that are struggling with the diagnosis process. So how would you implement change to that process if you could?
So I suppose the quick answer is everyone's like, oh, get rid of the waiting times and all that. I suppose with my NHS hat on, I know that's not possible. I would say NHS services are failing massively in this country because they've underestimated the spike in ADHD. They underestimated Psychiatry UK. I know, especially in my area, I spoke to senior managers when Psychiatry UK was coming up, and they were like, nah, you'll get a couple of referrals, that will be it. Now it's the leading ADHD referral basis in the UK. And they're charging these NHSs hundreds of thousands of pounds, rightly so. There's two changes, which doesn't really answer the question. The first change would be education for teachers. Most teachers will do half a day, if that, education on ADHD in their career. Some, if they've got a child with ADHD or ADHD itself, they might be doing more training. But 9 times out of 10, I'd say most teachers don't know what training is, but free training is available. And so that's a big change. I think the main one is, if I had all the money in the world, I would change ADHD services so it wasn't just around meds. It was more about that psychosocial, psychoeducation stuff. That is the stuff that will change people's lives. Medication gets you to the door, but going through that door and then living your life is all about psychoeducation and peer-to-peer support. If you're listening to this and you're struggling with your ADHD, and you're like, I'm going through Psychiatry, I just need my medication. That's the one thing I see a lot of people holding this huge hope for medication, and it comes and they go, oh, okay, it's not maybe what I expected. I was one of those people. Before I knew anything, it was just like, I'm going to get the drugs and they're going to fix me. And I just had so much hope in that. And now I know that there's still a little bit of hope that the drugs are going to help me, but I know that they're an aid. I have to continue to help myself. And that means education, self-understanding. Without all those things, the medication's not going to really do that much. And I can speak 100% from experience. 12 years of my life, I just took meds, didn't do any education, and nothing good come from it. Basic outcomes I achieved. I got jobs, but I never thrived in those jobs. I never was truly happy in my skin. I always felt like that dirty little secret, I've got ADHD and I can't tell no one. And I had to pick up my meds and be ashamed if I was going in for my ADHD appointments if I bumped into someone. Once I started meeting people face to face or online and going, okay, that is me, or hearing about rejection sensitivity dysphoria for the first time on a podcast that I was interviewing some girl, I'm going, fucking hell, that's me. And that sort of going, oh my God, they get me. Everything comes from that. So wherever you're living in the world, listen to these podcasts, listen to TED Talks, look in your area, what local groups are available. If there's not, there's loads of online stuff. And the great thing about the ADHD community, we are so caring and we will help in any way if we can. And I think if I was a parent or anyone looking for any like gold dust advice, it's that peer-to-peer psychoeducation stuff. That's where you learn about the medical stuff of ADHD, but also the sort of just gritty bits and the good bits and the bad bits and the sort of grey bits. And then you can go, actually, this is why ADHD, we can do this, and this is stuff we struggle with. And so like now I feel so confident when I'm in a park and my daughter goes, oh, my dad's got ADHD. And then I go, oh yeah, and talk about and feel proud about, I'm talking about my experiences, not like it's a dirty little secret, because it's not. It's nothing we should be ashamed of.
No,
absolutely.
Exactly that.
And speaking about nothing being ashamed of, are there any positive sides?
Well, yeah.
No, it's fucking shit. Is there a positive side to ADHD? Well, yeah, there are positive signs. I remember watching a really good documentary about, it was called like Blue Water, about this free diver who wanted to just do diving and photography, and he was always told he couldn't do it as a career. And he was like, well, if I do it enough, I'll become an expert at it, and then people will pay me to do this. And I always held on to that. And I thought, if I'm in a job that I like and it sparks my dopamines and all that, then I can thrive in that industry because it's ticking all those boxes. And then I've become a specialist in the industry and then move forward and higher in that. And so what I've done with my job, I knew I was good at promoting and cheering people up and trying to getting them through the door in some way, if it was working in clubs or sort of in groups. And I loved mental health because family members of mine have struggled. A lot of my family had worked in mental health. And so I use the good bits of my ADHD for me to thrive in work. So like I run a lot of projects that have done quite well in NHS. And even though my grade is not like qualified, so it's not the highest pay, I know within my trust, no one can do what I do. That comes from my ADHD. So I always say to people, like, especially with young kids, if they like football, push it to the heaven. Just get them in football. If it's music, if it's art, whatever it is, push it. And the same with work. And it might be like you're at a stage in your life where you're like, oh, that's easy said than you, just getting a new job in something completely that I've never trained in. Well, maybe just take a step back and go, right, I have to work in an accounting firm that I don't really like. But at evening, I love doing like knitting or cross stitch. I'm going to start doing these crazy cross stitch patterns and start selling them at Etsy because they're ticking. And so whatever your thing is, push it. I'm lucky my thing is mental health and helping people and promotion. I'm lucky that I'm in a job where I get to do that. So that lack of fear to go, fuck it, let's just contact ADHD AF and say, do you want to do Instagram live? That lack of fear to just message people has done me well in my career. And sort of interviewing, I remember like a mum said to me, oh, my son's got ADHD, he plays football, like what advice would you give? I said, well, when I was growing up, I would have loved to have spoke to an ADHD footballer, but that just wasn't possible. So I was like, why don't we get that for your son? And she was like, there's no ADHD footballers out currently. I was like, okay, Googled it, and there was none in the world. I think there's one maybe in America that said it once in an interview. So I was like, fuck it, let's just try and find some. So I used loads of contacts and messaged hundreds of people and found 2 professional footballers that felt comfortable enough to share their experiences with me. And so the first male, Ricky, he met with the mum and the family and did a private talk. And then Caitlin, the girl, we did an online event that was attended by like 150 parents of ADHD children. And so that wouldn't have happened, I don't think, if I wouldn't have gone, well, why can't I do that? Why can't we just find someone? Where I think that my mum says it. My mum says those non-ADHDers, they were just gone, no, someone else will do it. But us ADHDers, we're the ones that go, no, let's fucking make change. And like there's a woman who is from Bristol who messaged me about like, I want to get an ADHD assessment. So I've been sort of helping her. And she is a big part of this movement called Her Game Too, which talks about sexism in football and highlights women in football and like the disparity. And she does amazing work. And so in our fields, there's some amazing people doing unbelievable stuff. It might not all be towards ADHD, but in different industries. So I'd say it's a massive long answer, but I would say, yes, there are positives. It's a long, really hard road, and it will take years sometimes to feel comfortable in that skin. But when it comes, it's great. I'm 100% proud and comfortable in my ADHD skin. Maybe when I was newly diagnosed, I would have not wished that on myself or others, where I think now, I don't know if I would wish it on others, but I wouldn't. If someone said to me, I've got ADHD, my first response would be like, brilliant, fantastic. Look, this is what I can encourage you to look at. Check this out. Look at this. Follow this person. It is not as debilitating as it used to be. We haven't had that help from the NHS or private or government. We've had to take it. And I would say people like yourselves have been a massive advocate. You know, I can say this as a man. If we left it down to men, the ADHD online community would not be as it is. You know, women have been underdiagnosed for years, and men have been overdiagnosed in some ways for years, and we haven't done nothing for the last 15 years. So for young boys like myself, there was no representation because no one wanted to do anything about it. And it took amazing women like yourselves to go, this isn't okay, let's change this. And because of women like yourself, I get to do amazing podcasts, I get to talk and be open enough. And from you actually grabbing it and taking it, has helped other ADHDers online or in their own lives. And women are to thank for that. That wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the change in society recently.
Yeah, I think it's a funny one, isn't it? It's a bit like, we sort of think this all the time. It's like the balls on us. The stuff that we've done, it's just like, who the fuck do we actually think we are? And I mean, I do really suffer with RSD sometimes, but about stupid things, about other people, but like contacting the press, doing something really outlandish. I don't know what comes over me. I just feel like I've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Like, what? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
Do it. And that's definitely done as well. But I really, really like what you were saying about like following your passions and like, if you can get those sparks going, then that's what you need to be doing. And for us, like, we're people, and we like being out, and you know, the kind of jobs that we've had and the things that we've done in our lives, and here we are, 2 people, and we spend all of our time either talking to each other, apart from when we get lovely guests on like stuff, or behind a screen messaging people, whatever. And so that's like part of why we're doing the tour. It's because actually that's who we are. Like, we're going to go and actually see people and talk to people and be daft and be dressed up, because that's what makes it fun. And I think for us, we've just got to a place now where we've done so much, and we're so glad we can see what we've done, and we know that we have helped more than we ever thought that we could. But actually now we sort of need to help ourselves a bit and have some fun, because otherwise we just drown in all the messages and all the sadness and all the press and all the bullshit. It's like, actually, right, no, we can't just exist like this, you know.
Without blowing your trumpet anymore, I would say for anyone that is listening to this and going questioning about coming, and it's coming to your city and you are available to come, and you're questioning, well, should I go? Nothing is more amazing and impactful and self-assuring and self-esteem building than being in a room full of other ADHD people and going, fucking hell, I'm not the odd one. This is our community. That for me, that's what happened to me. I went to an ADHD festival that was in Bristol, and it was the first time, like I said, I've never met someone up to 27, and being in a room with like 200 ADHD people, I was like, I could have cried at the time. I was like, this is amazing. Like, meet other people, chat to other people in the city, and go and feel like actually nothing will be better for you this year than go to that. One, you'll have great fun, but also being around other ADHD people. I went to an ADHD event a couple of months ago. Typical, like, I spoke to a couple of people. I was like, oh, give me a contact, and met an amazing woman who's a firefighter in Wales. So I think she'll probably come to the Cardiff one. And I would never have met an ADHD firefighter from Wales if I wouldn't have gone to that event.
Exactly.
And that builds on that conversation, saying to, you know, my daughter, oh, you can be a female firefighter with ADHD. Nothing stops you. And that representation of, why wouldn't you be an ADHD female firefighter? So it's amazing. So buy your tickets.
We're going to be there, and we might not be everyone's cup of tea, but there's going to be there's going to be so many different variations of ADHD at this event. There may be someone that you click with, connect with, and that's the whole point. It's a community, and we want to bring the community together.
Exactly, like that peer-to-peer sport. If you two wouldn't have met and gone ADHD, built that conversation, then we wouldn't be having this conversation now. So it could be you sit next to someone and go, when were you diagnosed, or what do you listen, how long you listen to the podcast for, and then sparks that conversation. Go, oh, do you live local? Yeah, I live around the corner. Here's my number. Do you fancy meeting up, going for walks? Because nothing, the same as we're talking now, like when we say something that resonates with all of us, we go, oh yeah, that's me. That doesn't come from conversations with our other halves or friends in our family that don't have ADHD. That only comes from peer-to-peer support. And so going out and meeting people is, I've seen it in all areas of mental health or well-being. Peer-to-peer support is probably the most productive thing in all areas of wellness, and it has amazing evidence base to be great for you. So get your ticket.
And everyone just wants to see you sing Adele anyway.
Or Joseph in his Technicolour Dreamcoat.
Yeah.
So I guess our last question for you is, what is the most ADHD thing you have done this week?
What is the most ADHD thing I've done? So yesterday I went to, we just come back from London, we went for the night, and we were literally just driving. I was like, fuck, my meds. I've taken today's, but not about tomorrow's. And the idea of I can miss my antidepressants for one day, but the idea I was like, oh my God, I'm in London for a full day and they're paying for my food receipts as well. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to eat so much. Quick, get back. So normally it's stuff like that. You could be on meds for 20 years and still forget to take your meds, unfortunately.
Those highly addictive meds, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, listen, it's always a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah.
And thank you. Yeah, just thank you so much. We can't wait to see you in real life. Is your missus going to come as well?
She'll be looking after the babies.
Oh, Boo. Well, we very much look forward to seeing you. We're very grateful, and we can't wait for Adele.
We can't wait.
I knew I should have just stopped with Fleetwood Mac. I should have just gone, Fleetwood Mac, maybe a bit of Tom Jones.
I wonder if we could get an actual bathtub on stage.
Honestly, that is
Oh my God, no.
That's my brain went. That is literally, as soon as he said it, I was like, right, so we need a bathtub.
We'll get my shower cap or something.
Yeah, rubber duck.
Just roll me out on stage. I'm like,
It is that. Oh,
oh my God.
If you could bring that, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely.
super. But it has been an absolute pleasure, Jacob.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I love chatting to you too. Like I said, I'll always promote anything you two do because I think you're both amazing. So keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Get some rest.
Yes.
Cheers, you too.
All right.
Bye.
Honestly, how much of a ledge is Jacob? We just
Joseph?
Joseph just talk so much that we love talking to him so much that we just talked for over 2 hours.
Yeah,
didn't
we did. It was 2 hours. I mean,
quite the editing job for you.
yeah. I got there though. I got there. So this is why we're going to try and keep everything brief for these parts.
The drilling.
Yeah.
Our favourite, most ADHD thing of this week has actually come from our Discord.
It has. It's one of our members, and this made me laugh so much. They say, I was heading to take a shower, tits out, and then I noticed that I'd left the window in the living room semi-open. When I got there, I saw a book that I'd left on the couch, and I started browsing through it while forgetting that I was fully naked from the waist up, and I was standing right in front of the window. I basically flashed all of my neighbours. Lol.
I did.
It's so good, and it reminds me because I often run out of underwear because I haven't put my washing away. So I'll go downstairs and it'll be on the clothes horse. So I'll run downstairs, dressed like Winnie the Pooh, t-shirt on but nothing on downstairs, run into the living room, go and grab a pair of knickers off the clothes horse and then put them on and hope that nobody catches me staring through the window. So I totally get it. I do it all the time.
Winnie the Poohing it.
The Winnie the Pooh. Yeah, it's a look.
It's a look indeed. Our most ADHD thing.
It's a combined effort.
It's a combined effort in that basically we're struggling. We're actually we have to hold our hands up at this point and say we've got to a point again where everything, for want of a better phrase, has got a bit too much.
Yeah, it's funny that everything's too much given that we're organising the Too Much tour, but we just have to remind ourselves and as well as you guys that there literally is just two of us. We're trying to organise a UK tour, all this coalition stuff.
That's not the problem, I don't think.
But no, we're doing that whilst we're trying to keep going with all the admin side of things, replying to people, replying to emails, replying to comments, people tagging us and things left, right and centre, and trying to see and speak to everyone and keep everyone happy and not say no to everyone.
Yeah, it's just, I feel like just all of a sudden, it feels like everybody wants a piece of us.
Yeah.
Everybody wants us to share their page, to tag us in their content, to share their events that they're doing, to have us share the petitions that they've started. It's like we can't move for somebody wanting something from us.
Yeah.
And as lifelong people pleasers, and
we want
RSD, we want to help everybody, but actually we just need to say, if you want to collaborate with us in any way, and we're always up for collaborating, please just email us and explain it to us. If you just tag us on social media, or just, we're going to miss a message, we're going to suddenly feel this like enormous pressure that we have to act on something because you've just publicly tagged us in something and insisted that we're part of it.
Yeah.
And actually, especially in terms of any of the activism stuff, we have to be careful. We can't say yes to everything, you know, it has to be in line with what we're doing. And, you know, it is quite stressful.
Very stressful.
Yeah.
It's very stressful.
Yeah, everything's got too much. We're doing too much and it's all just got too much. And we actually have to be all right.
Yeah.
So we're going to try and put some systems in place. But please know, you know, we've put the community together because we can't reply to messages because it was too much already.
Yeah.
It's suddenly kind of picked back up again. And we had a passive aggressive message like, oh, okay then.
Yeah.
Like from somebody like, are you joking? Like, we are just two people.
Yeah.
You know, or people complaining about things being on different time zones and all sorts of things that are out of our control.
Yeah.
When we are just two people.
And it's hard enough worrying about everything that we are juggling. It's especially adding on stuff that we can't control.
Yeah. I've started to feel like I'm on alert.
Yeah.
Like I wake up and I'm like, okay, right. Who needs what? And it's like, we've got severe ADHD.
Yeah.
We are two people. And please know, we're doing our best.
Yeah.
We really are doing our best. So if you have something that is really important that you want us to be part of, please email us.
You can
because
visit
we're really
our
up for
website.
collaborating.
Yeah, we are. And you can visit our website, ADHDsfemales.com, and there is a form on there that you can fill out, which will come through to us as an email for anything that you wish to collaborate with or anything at all.
Yeah, and if
really.
you want to talk to us about where you're up to on your journey, like, come and join the community.
Yeah.
And if you can't afford to do that, then please know there are so many other places that you can go and do that. And that's why we felt okay about putting that boundary in for ourselves.
Yeah.
Is that you can speak to the ADHD adults. There are all sorts of community forums on every single platform. So we really do appreciate everybody's support, but we're losing our marbles a little bit here. So we just suddenly realised that we need to state it and put some boundaries in place, or otherwise we are going to burn out and I'm going to be an actual nervous wreck.
So speaking of burning out and nervous wrecks, rabbit holes? What's your rabbit hole been this week?
Well, actually, my rabbit hole has been about trying to put some self-care in place because grief has got me again.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really awful. And I'm physically feeling it in my body. Like I'm being gripped around the throat.
Yeah.
And I'm just on the brink of tears quite often. And it's so annoying that grief comes back round again. So now I'm sort of diving into finding ways to deal with that. I've started speaking to an ADHD coach and I'm trying to get a therapist and just like put my phone away at night and try and be restful and trying to look after myself. So my rabbit hole is self-care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine's pretty much been the same. Like, I had surgery yesterday. I wasn't sure if I was going to say anything about it, but like I'm juggling everything else as well as having surgery. So I've been like rabbit holing all the ADHD stuff, trying to get everything done and sorted whilst rabbit holing all my uni work and trying to get everything else done and sorted for that. So it's just been a bit much, yeah. Especially like literally having surgery yesterday and then coming and trying to get everything done again.
And these guys decide to put on a little show outside the window.
Outside my house, which is, amazing, fantastic. Thanks. Thanks, guys. Thanks.
But all whinging aside, Dawn, you're doing amazing.
And as are you.
We're doing all right. We're doing our best. We will carry on. There's no balls that we want to drop. We just need some support and some compassion and some grace.
Yeah.
And we need to give ourselves some.
And we are so thankful for everyone that does give us that. There's so many of you that are so kind and caring and considerate, and we really appreciate that.
And we really appreciate all the people that have bought tickets for the tour.
Yes.
And most of them are out now. We've got a few more dates that we need to get secured, but most tickets are on sale now via the link in our bio.
Yeah, and it's less than 2 weeks until the Aberdeen date.
11 days.
And we've sold over 100 tickets. So we just hit over 100 today.
It's
so
so
that's
exciting.
very, very exciting.
And we can't wait to do it. But
So,
we need to have a bit of a rest.
Yeah.
And stop trying to spread ourselves too thinly. So excuse our absence a little bit, but we can't wait to see you all in real life.
Yeah.
And if you would like to chat to us, then do come and join our community full of absolute legends who support each other and all the different things we do in there.
Yeah. And as always, take care of yourself.
And we'll try and take that advice.
And we'll try and do the same for us.
And thank you so much, Jacob. We can't wait to have Jacob at our event in Bristol, which is at the incredible Tonight Josephine.
Yeah!
Hope to see you there.
Bye!
Do you think that was too whingy?
No.
ADHD as females.